Almost lost you today. Almost lost you today. My son is over there chilling. You know what? I almost didn't make a video today. And I know I could have not done it and it would have been fine. It's not like, oh my gosh, she's sinning against the Lord. It's been a crazy day. It's been a crazy day for a lot of reasons. And but you know what? I said I'd do a joint, so I'm gonna keep the party going. This video will probably not be liked or subscribed to. Won't make you subscribe. I'm just thinking out loud, thinking how how things go. I've been living in AI world lately, right? Been watching a ton of AI and playing with AI a lot. And what's interesting? I just think so there are certain things, right? Like that we just can't do anything about. And last night Strack and I were talking about sort of the change in the global currency, right? The currency wars is what we were dubbing World War III. And we encourage people at the end of the video and stuff like that. But there are times when there's just things that it is what it is. We can't do anything about. And you know what one of those things is actually? We talked about this last week on Cross Examine. We had my buddy Mike Perry on. We call him Cronkeezy. We were talking about just the AI, the technological revolution of AI. And the more I've invested in it, the more I look into it, I've just realized that, and we did an episode recently. That episode was called The Nonfiction of Science Fiction, right? I think we're at a point with certain aspects of AI. So there's varying levels of AI. There's people making songs that sound like other people, people making videos. But a lot of what's flipping people's minds out is sort of knowledge-based AI, where the artificial intelligence is able to just take a prompt, question that you ask, or some command, and type something out. So let me just give you an example. I was talking to a buddy of mine who does a lot of writing for his job. And I was explaining to him he hadn't heard about some of the AI technology. So I was walking him through it. And then he asked me to write up a prompt for something that he would do, what he does for a living, right? And it was essentially, I wrote a defense contract. I asked AI to write a defense proposal for NASA. And that joint just started spitting stuff out. And it was like, wow, this is kind of like what I would write, my buddy was saying. And I just realized, like, there are certain things that as believers in particular, it just is what it is. Like, I don't think we're going to escape just a lot of this stuff. I just think we're just going to have to figure out how we're going to live through it. It just is what it is. Some of the stuff that's happening related to AI and different things that are out there in the culture, it is mind blowing. The things and this is like, we're on the front end of this stuff. I don't know where it's headed, but if we use sort of how people have thought about the future as a guide, then I think the AI that we're seeing now can be used for good things. But I think let me tell you what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to destabilize the world. And here's why. Right now, there are some AI programs that can essentially do what people have gotten degrees, knowledge-based stuff. You went to college, you have a degree in certain things, and this AI can produce in seconds what people take a while to write. And I think what's going to happen is, as corporations start to figure out that this AI stuff can do a lot of what it's paying employees to do, it's going to start, because we live in a capitalistic society, right? So we live in a society where money is somewhat king. A lot of these corporations, when they realize that instead of paying someone six figures, that they can do this or find someone to do it on an AI quicker and cheap, is people are going to start losing their jobs because, and our country, we thrive off of how do we make money? How do we build income? How do we do that? And if you run a business and your business is paying people to write guides on step-by-step guides on how to do something, and then you can go to this AI, type in the same thing, step-by-step guide to, so let me give you an example. I'm talking to my colleague of mine. I said, bro, you could do a step-by-step guide to how to find a good church in such and such. So he did it. He said, step-by-step guide to finding a good church in the city that he's from. And that joint just listed out a ton of joints, like step-by-step. Like I forgot how many it was. And he was like, bro, these are all good joints. I was like, just like that, it just did that. So I think while it's good and it's exciting, I think we're headed for a technological revolution that that will be the greatest thing we've ever seen. And by that I mean it might not be the greatest technology, but more people will have access to this technology than normally. Normally, the kind of technology that's happening right now is usually stuff we see in movies that is just, we don't even think is going to happen in our lifetime for like 30, 40 years, right? Or it's government has this kind of technology. And so you think, but now there's such open source realities. Now people are able to put stuff out there. I mean, how is it that what's happening, like the government is getting like documents leaked, like secret documents leaked by the US about what the US is doing, like just at random. Like the world has changed a ton. It's just a different world. And as much as I wish I could say, well, you got to do this and do this, for many of us, it just is what it is. It just is what it is. Like we just got to figure out, all right, Lord, we got to trust you, and how are we going to do this in light of all that's happening, right? The technological advancements that are out there now that you could just find out about are going to only improve. Companies are trying to sue some of these technological because they're like, hey, you're taking from the source material that we've written, or trying to figure out a way to do that. Right now, if I had money, let me tell you what I would do right now if I had the money to spend. I would try to find a company that is trying to write software for how to detect if something was done by artificial intelligence or not. That's going to be those companies, whoever those people are, those are going to be huge in a couple years, because this AI stuff is so crazy that what we're living in right now is what I call Blade Runner society. All right, so the movie Blade Runner was this movie that the first one, the newer one that came out wasn't that good with Ryan, what's his name, Ryan Philippe or something? I don't remember that dude's name. But the best one was Harrison Ford. Now, this Harrison Ford was in the new one, but he did one in the 80s. And Blade Runner was this movie about trying to figure out if people are synthetic. I think I mentioned this on the nonfiction of science fiction show. And you're trying to figure out if people are really humans or not. I think that's what's going to happen with this AI advancement. You're going to want to figure out, did you do this? Was this written by a human, or did you get AI to do this? And companies that are able to detect what AI is, because think about it, you got to know, like if you get an email or some document, you got to be able to know, was this written by the person who sent it, or was this written by AI, right? I think it's just going to be crazy. And this isn't stuff like, sometimes we think the Lord is trying to spare us from like the wildest stuff. I just don't think that's what the Lord's trying to do. So I don't think like, oh, because we're Christians, like we don't have to worry about this stuff. Like, no, I think we live in the world, right? We still live in the world. I just think a lot of it, it is what it is. And we're going to have to live in a society where we're going to live in a Blade Runner society, where it's going to be a synthetic society. And it's already being pushed there. We already live in a society where, from social media like Facebook and Twitter and things like that, you were already dealing with people that weren't face-to-face. It wasn't personal, right? So it made it easier to kind of be aggressive and say things to people that you would normally say if you were sitting down having a meal with them or talking to them face-to-face, because they're not really real people. You just see their avatar or their picture and words, but they're not necessarily like a person. So we've been living in a quasi-synthetic society since social media, Facebook, and these Twitter and all these things really blow up, right? It's been quasi-synthetic. But now we're living, it's going to be even more, because now with AI, you might get a phone call and think it's your mom and she needs your help. Her plumbing broke and she needs you to send $500 to her to this account to fix to the plumber. And you're not used to, you think, okay, mom, I'm going to do it right now. And then you send it through Zelle, and then you find out that was a fake prompt. Like, is that your mom or not? So what it's going to do is it's going to destabilize people because we're not going to know if this is real or not. You think I'm just, I know it sounds crazy. It sounds like, no, that ain't going to happen. But man, whenever there's good technology, there's always inventors of evil. There are people out there already trying to figure out how do we maximize this. So I just think on one level, it is what it is. We're going to have to figure out how do we navigate in this society? How do we navigate? If you're a job where you're writing like content a lot, I mean, who knows? Hopefully, by the grace of God, you're able to. But there are going to be people who are like, man, I can get this content from. If you're an illustrator, you do stuff like that. It's going to be like, it's just going to be crazy. It's going to be like, wow, this could be done. So you're going to be out of a job unless you know how to do this stuff. So listen to these two words: prompt engineering. Go on YouTube, look up prompt engineering, and watch videos on how that's going to be. If you know how to prompt engineering and you can do AI consulting, I think that's going to be one of the newer things out there that people are going to look to people to tell them, how do I do this? How do I do that? Prompt engineering, AI consulting. I'm telling you now. Now, don't get me wrong. There are going to be some jobs you're always going to need childcare. You're always going to need food. You're always going to need medical care. You're always going to need someone, to care. Right. Those things are legitimate. There's going to be certain things but a lot of what's going to happen to people is you're going to lose your livelihood on some level, and people are going to freak out. And I think it's going to destabilize the world because we're going to live remember when Trump said fake news? Remember when he said that, fake news? Fake news became two words that freed a lot of people up from not trusting resources, not trusting expertise. One of my buddies just wrote a book. My buddy John was going to be on the show again soon. He wrote a book, but he told me, he said this on the show last year, that he's a reporter. He was a White House reporter for a while, right? He doesn't want to be because people don't trust media anymore partly because of Trump and just others. There's a sense of everyone's an expert. Everyone. I just like I don't care about expertise. I like who says what I think and feel, right? So that we've been in a sort of quasi, I don't know who trusts society. Man, AI is just going to push it to the next level. It's going to be hard to know. If you're a teacher, did your student really write this or not? Should you give this a good grade? How do you know? The technology that's going to be the next technology is going to be who can write a software that can detect if this AI stuff is real. But you know what, though? You don't got to believe me. It is what it is. But when it happens, remember where you heard it first. Kirk Kennedy, you know what I'm saying? Remember, what do I know? What do I know? I'm just a fat dude with dreads trying to do his thing on YouTube. But when you hear it, when it happens, I'm not going to say I told you so then, because I'm going to say it now. I told you so. Grace and peace.